So Trump has been busy during this holiday weekend naming some more of his appointments to his team. These are the headlines coming out today. Trump Surgeon General pick is a director of urgent care firm, once accused of fraud. Yes, of course it is. And we also have this one. Trump picks hardline, quote, deep state critic Kash Patel as new FBI head. And you can see Cash there. He's got a scarf, fight with Cash with a dollar sign. And he's also connected to Trump companies and has been part of the Trump, I guess to say, team for a long time. Honestly, I can't even make jokes about this stuff today. And I want to have a chat with you because I just feel like things are really getting worse than I even thought they would be. So I was thinking, okay, I get it. The American people, chose their dude. And I was thinking, okay, maybe the dude just gonna hang out and watch Fox News all day and, tweet up a storm, and, just be happy to be living in the White House again. It turns out he's coming back with a vengeance, and his goal is to pick the most unqualified, immoral people that he can find. And if that's your, idea of winning slash success, hey, you're successful at winning that kind of world. I'm particularly frustrated today reading through the FBI guy that he's picking here. Again, his name is Kash Patel. I have a lot to say about this stuff. If you want to dig in all the details of the guy, you can certainly find it. I'll just say it was way longer than anyone else that I've read in terms of like why he's not qualified. Several people that have worked with him be like, yo, this dude's no good. He spreads tons and tons of conspiracy theories. I guess he's going to have a race with Elon Musk on who can spread more conspiracy theories. And this guy is going to be the director of FBI, I guess. We'll see. Maybe some of these people won't get confirmed. It is also really interesting as well, and I want to bring this up to where the way Americans think about, say, race and politics may change. Not everyone is exactly the same, right? I want to make that really clear. Not everyone, who looks a certain way is all the same. Some people are corrupt, some people are not. Some people are smart, some people are not. It's like I just think it'll change the way that people think because now that this is, I believe, and there could be more, but I think this is the second Indian American that's been picked to Trump's team, and both tend to be more on the right leaning Republican side. Because sometimes people say, oh, all minorities, vote for Democrat, et cetera. Not necessarily, right? And you can look at, countries around the world. There's lots of autocratic countries where, the people aren't necessarily white. It's just the reality. But I'm just saying, in USA, sometimes people think that a certain group of people are all the same, right? Not everyone, again, is the same. And it's interesting that, and Kash Patel's particular situation, I was just reading through this crap. I guess he tries to pretend he's from Queens and this is in New York, but I guess he's really from Garden City on Long Island, which is the wealthy part. And then he even wrote in his book that like his family takes trips to Disney World with like 15-car convoy. I was like, what the heck? And then tries to pretend that they're poor or whatever. The thing that's so crazy about this stuff is I feel like as someone, and I think that might be the word of the term, someone pointed out that the White House is now going to be the White House shopping network where you can bribe anyone that you want, essentially, and that's essentially where the government is now. People who have never lived in this kind of world may have a different idea of how it's going to play out. Oftentimes, what is sold to people in that side of the aisle is, hey, vote for us. We're all going to be about freedom, and we're going to delete the government. We don't need government agencies. We don't need any taxes. It's going to be about freedom. You're going to be free to do whatever you want, totally free, right? And I'll tell you guys, I used to live in China. I lived in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Beijing. I used to teach at Tsinghua University, which is the top university in the country. Pretty much all the professors are members of the party. Many of the students are actually members of the party. And basically, Chinese presidents come from that university. I mean, I'm talking about the political elites, basically, and just elites of the country. When you're around that kind of world, you'll learn very, very quickly sort of how organizations function in that type of world, to where basically money bribes whatever politician, and those with power stay in power, and those with power can pretty much do whatever they want. be it poison your air, poison your water, be it, hit people with their cars, be it, buy out whatever company, steal stuff from whatever companies and put it to their company, be it politicians will, try to profit off the little person, right? And steal whatever they can. I mean, it's all about enriching themselves. Okay, it's a major problem. Does that mean every single person that lives in that country, in the term of, say in communist China, is on board with that? No, of course not. But that's kind of how the system is, and so to get anything done, you literally have to just bribe someone. That's like just how it works. When I used to live and work in Vietnam, I worked in the film industry, if you guys don't know, and sort of the way things would happen is, if you say you're filming something and the police come along and say, you're not supposed to be filming there, where's your permit? And you just give them a bunch of money and the police go away. That's like how the system works. And it's like, it's how to explain it. I mean, it's all about money rules the roost in these kind of places. So the idea of like not being free is not exactly what you think it is. It's actually the opposite. And I mentioned this before on the channel, but for those of you who live in other countries, you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's actually kind of more free in one way, to where if you have money, you can do anything you want. I mean, you can buy whatever things you want, be it dangerous or whatever, hurt other people. And it becomes more and more serious when you start to involve essentially the entire institutions and subvert them to favor the wealthy, basically. In this particular situation with, say, the FBI guy, and how does this relate to markets? Because we talk a lot about the markets, economy, etc. There's all kind of criminal activity that happen at companies. It's real, right? Be it for any kind of stock manipulation, or misinformation out there, or any kind of embezzlement, wire frauds, like whatever, money laundering, all kinds of stuff. And again, that, as I described to you before, say in Vietnam, the police come, you give money, they go away, and you go about your business. Now, for some people, they think, okay, Chris, well, these are all victimless crimes, right? If someone wants to lie on their accounting book, it's a victimless crime. No one really gets hurt. What ends up happening, and sort of why this world is going in that direction in terms of what's happening in USA, there's a large group of people in the USA, right? I guess you could argue the majority, who are like, you know what, my life is crappy. I need a change in the system, and I'm going to go with the guy who's going to give me the biggest change, right? Because these kind of people don't see any other way out. I guess they're desperate or whatever. And this guy who speaks at elementary school level, is easy to understand. He gives you a bad guy to point to. Oh, they're the bad guys. They're the bad guys, and blame those people. And people go, yeah, blame those other people. It's not my fault at all. It's nothing to do with me, right? And it's an easy solution. Okay. The problem is, though, is that not only are things not going to change for people at the bottom, it's gonna get worse, a heck of a lot worse. When you're picking people at the top, that's based on loyalty, that's based on family members being, part of whatever system, and you're just only inviting your friends, etc. You're not looking at qualifications anymore, right? It's irrelevant to these kind of people. And what's crazy is, and I always have to, just use really, really simple examples, because for some people, they have no experience in this kind of world, no experience, which is fine. This is why I'm trying to talk to you about, especially for younger people listening to this. Let me give you a scenario and see if it makes sense to you. So imagine that you work at a company, or say a Hollywood film set. I have a lot of experience in film, and you're working your butt off on set, okay? And comes along this, say, guy, young kid, maybe he's like 23, 24, and he just making noise on set, and you're just like, dude, shut up, man. And then your boss takes you over and says, like, you can't tell that guy to shut up. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's making noise on set. And he's like, yeah, but that kid is the son of the producer, and the producer's got a bunch of money and basically controls all of our jobs. And you're just like, oh, okay. And you start to learn very, very quickly how the world is made up. Then it turns out that same 23, 24-year-old kid or whatever, son of the producer, starts hitting on all of your coworkers, right? Touching them, saying lewd things, and you're just like, oh my God, how is this world even, like what's going on here? I had to work my butt off to get to this position that I'm at, and now I got this freaking rich kid here who's like making noise on set, touching employees, saying a bunch of crazy things, asking people lots of inappropriate personal questions, and you can't get rid of them. Now, just imagine that world that I just described to you. Imagine if that's like everywhere, and that's the way that everything at the top is run. That's what the Trump organization is. Like, it's obvious to anyone who sits down and listens to any of his kids speak. It's obvious to how Trump speaks. But I get it more than you guys. Like, for those people out there that it doesn't matter how many things you tell them that how Trump is an awful person, it doesn't matter to them because Trump speaks at their level, right? Low intellect, simple English, blame other people, right? Own the libs. That's all this is about, right? And it's sad because even say in the Republican Party, the people that go against it be like, I'm never going for Trump. But there's too many people in the Republican Party that are frankly just silent to this kind of stuff. They know it's bad. Of course they know. Of course they know, right? And we may disagree on some policy stuff, right? Which I think is totally fine. Like, we have conversations about markets, policy, whatever, about tax rates, and I actually like to have these conversations with people, but when we start going down the line of, hey, I'm just going to pick my friends, I'm just going to pardon my criminal buddies, hey, I'm just going to pick people who are going to accept bribes and stuff like that. Now we're not even talking about anything with policy anymore. Now we're just like, and I just wrote a comment to someone in the channel. I was like, at this point, I just want people who don't have criminal records. I want people who aren't going to be taking bribes all the time, and I just want a functioning government, right? Whatever. And for people who don't realize like how bad it can get, I'll give you examples. So when I was in Korea, I think it was like 2015, I think maybe 2014. I just forget the year, but we had this thing called the Sewol Ferry. And what it was a ferry of children. For those who know the story, you may or may not know this, but I'll just tell you what it was. And they're actually going really close. They were on a school trip, going from the mainland to just like I think they're going like an island for a field trip. And the ferry actually ended up turning over, and which is a pretty serious thing. I think it was a couple hundred kids on this ferry, and the U.S. military showed up and said, "Hey, we're here to help rescue the kids." The Korean government actually called them off and say, no, because it kind of an embarrassment for the Korean politician, the President Park at the time, if they had assistance from the U.S. because they can take care of themselves, right? But the whole thing was corrupt. The whole thing was corrupt. And unfortunately, people actually died because of this massive corruption. Why was it corrupt? Like, because, it had to do with the company who was operating the ferry. They had too much cargo on board, right? Bribe this, bribe that. And so then the boat was like tipsy, top heavy, right? So it was going to tilt over that way. You had corruption on how things were handled, on which agencies would go and help with the disaster, who's going to take credit for the disaster, who would be in charge, like all this kind of stuff that you would imagine when you have people who are completely unqualified and completely inept. And unfortunately, in this situation, President Park here in Korea, the reason why a bunch of idiots, I was pretty a bunch of idiots voted for is because her dad was a dictator. For real. So she was the daughter of a dictator. And all people were like, oh, yeah, I remember the dictator days. Man, those days were really good. And because dictators get things done. And it was like, what the heck? And back at that time, I was professor at Hongdae. If you don't know, it's basically like the equivalent of NYU in Korea. Very, very good school. And essentially, a lot of my students were just really disillusioned with the way the country and the direction that it was going. And we had to have these discussions all the time. And actually, at my university, true story, we had older professors. So I'm not Korean, I'm American, right? But we had older professors then giving lectures to students about like, you got to obey the government and the government's great. And, we're going to fight the North. And just like, and then not against fighting the North. And I think you should protect South Korea. Let me make that clear. But it was just, there's a awkward mentality here. And this goes back to Korean history, which is a whole other issue though, where people would just say like, oh, if you don't agree with the current administration, then you must be communist. Which is not always the case, right? Just because you disagree with particular policy doesn't something mean you're going to go defect to North Korea or whatever like that. That kind of thing has been used in Korea for years. There's a great movie, a couple movies. One, and I mentioned before on channel, let's mention again. You can look them up. One is called 1987, When the Day Comes. It's a fantastic movie. The other one is called I think it's called Soul Spring, which is the I think the Korean title. And I think it might be called just The Day. And it just goes over Korean history and sort of like how these kind of corrupt regimes uh, get into power or lose power, fight over power, etc. If you don't know anything about this kind of world, please watch these couple of Korean movies that I mentioned. One's called 1987, and the other one's called like Soul Spring. You'll find it easy to find. But I mentioned this is because the current Trump administration is just going that route. Be it the old Korean regime that we used to have. We still have corruption today. It still exists, of course. I say of course because it's hard to root out all corruption. Say corrupt a government in Vietnam, which I lived there as well, and if you want to do anything there, you got to bribe people, same way as in China. It's just how it is, and the U.S. system. One of the pillars of what, as per Frank, what really makes America great is having strong institutions like the institution of law, where you're innocent until you're proven guilty, and you have a right to go to court, and you stand in front of a jury full of your peers. I'm just giving a simple example, right? Like this idea of rule of law is like one of the most powerful parts of the USA, that we're impartial. Or I talk all the time on this channel, just, hey guys, what's going on in the markets? And the reason I'm talking about markets is because you want properly functioning markets as just part of the economy. But if you can have this world where you get this dude whose president's like promoting like crypto scam, like right now he's promoting a crypto scam right now. It's like it's crazy, and selling all sorts of crap from the White House, be it guitars or whatever, and then you bring in this FBI director guy who's I mean, I was like, oh my God, this guy's really dirty. It's like, what the heck? And it just reminded me how, unfortunately, there's gonna be a large group of people here, and I'm a little mean this episode, but I just have to talk with you about it honestly, that are frankly illiterate. They can't read, they don't understand anything, even if you try to explain it to them, and it doesn't matter. They don't understand. I try my best to educate people, and there's some people that again, they hold these deep, I guess, animosities to whatever group of people, and they just feel angry all the time, and they have to take out their anger on people. I'll see it in comments from these kind of people. It's crazy, this stuff. Myself, my point of view in these things, I try my best to say, to redirect my, let's say, uneasiness about the world into positive ways, and just having conversations with you. I realize for some people, the reason why they like to hang on this channel, they just want to know that they're not alone and they're not insane. And that's what I'm here to tell you. You're not alone. You're not insane. I can see the crazy corruption the same way that you can see it. And unfortunately, it affects everything and all of us, and it keeps getting worse. My hope, and I don't know how this is going to play out because it's hard to say. Remember, Trump's got immunity for being president, which is nuts in itself. It's just nuts. Like, regardless of who's president, I don't want anyone to be above the law. It's like it should be a basic fundamental thing to American system, right? And we need to change that back. And for anyone who's like disagrees with me, I think you'd be crazy. Like, do you want politicians to be immune from any kind of things that they do that is illegal, etc.? And so what I think may happen is, his staff will get into all sorts of trouble for bribery stuff. I think that'll be a thing, because that'll happen in other countries, and I guess maybe in USA the next 4 years, where they're all corrupt in any number of ways. But what's crazy though is let's just say this: there's a lot of people in the USA who aren't going to stand for it, who are fine, decent Americans. I'm being really honest here. They want to do their job. They want to protect the country, and they're going to fulfill their duty of upholding the law. And I just hope there's more of them than there are of these lawless felons. And I'll leave it at that. So I do appreciate you guys all watching. Please be careful out there, and I'll catch you in the next video.